I'm sure everyone here is aware of who Sami Hamdi is, and we're so very grateful that you took out the time to be here today. But I think an introduction is necessary. So Sami Hamdi is the Managing Director of the International Interest, a global risk and intelligence company. He advises governments on the geopolitical dynamics of Europe and the MENA region, and has significant expertise in advising companies on commercial issues related to volatile political environments and their implications on market entry, market expansion, and managing stakeholders. Sami has also featured, as I think most of us will have seen, as a commentator for Al Jazeera in both Arabic and English, Sky News, BBC, TRT World, and other news outlets. So I'll now hand over to Sami Hamdi.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله. I think that first and foremost, I should start with a caveat. And the caveat is that somebody sent me a screenshot. A few people sent me screenshots of a comment that somebody put up on YouTube that said, Sami, you need new content, bro. and I realized in the beginning, I thought, okay, how do you repackage a lot of the stuff that's being said, right? How do you repackage Hind Rajab being shot by 325 bullets? How do you repackage Sidra's legs being blown up and then find her hanging against the wall? How do you repackage the Khalid Nabhan, Ruh al-Ruh, holding green? How do I repackage it in a way that gives you the same impact as the first time that you saw it? How do you repackage new content? How do you repackage the view of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians being forced to move from one city to the next, being forced to walk? How do you repackage that image of that girl who is holding, she's about 6, 7, 8 years old, holding her 4-year-old brother on her back, walking, and then when the journalist asks her, how long have you been walking for? She says, I've been walking for days, and then he says, you must be tired. She says, I'm exhausted, and he offers to carry the brother afterwards. And it made me realize that is the problem my lack of eloquence in order to continue to inspire with regards to the Palestinian cause, or is the real issue that there is a concern that some of us are becoming desensitized to what we're seeing because we saw it so much and we have the luxury of being able to switch it off whenever we want. We're now bored of that content. Yes, I know there's a genocide. Yes, I know they're being slaughtered. Yes, I know they're being killed. Yes, I know that it's Israeli bombs. Yes, I know. But give me something new because this is boring. The Palestinians dying is boring. Genocide is becoming boring. It's not going anywhere. So if you have nothing new to say about the genocide, stop talking about it and stop saying the same things again. To these people, I give them the response that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them when He said, فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. Remember, for remembrance benefits them. The Quran has been the same for 1400 years. No one says the Quran has become irrelevant. No one says the Quran needs to be changed. No one says that the Quran no longer has the impact that it has, because the Quran today is the reason why many non-Muslims, when they started looking at Gaza, they wanted to find out the lens through which the Palestinians view their own cause. What makes Palestinians continue to resist? What makes Palestinians continue to get back up? What makes Muslims who aren't Palestinians continue to raise their voice? What makes these Palestinians and Muslims move and mobilize for the sake of the Palestinian cause? So Sean King finds out that there's a book called the Quran. He picks it up and he starts reading, where people said that perhaps it has become irrelevant. He found it so relevant, he became Muslim. Megan Rice picked up the Quran and she started hearing this is the same words being said over and over again for 1400 years, but she found the relevance in them and she became Muslim, inspired by the resistance and perseverance of the Palestinian cause. The idea that you need new content, or the idea of boredom, or the idea that you're getting desensitized, comes from, in my opinion, a lack of appreciation of what we're actually seeing unfold. And also, in my opinion, what I call the modern day Dajjalic vision of Islam that we teach our kids and we teach and we grow up. By that, what I mean is, one of the questions that used to trouble me quite a bit was this. When the Muslim talks about Palestine, he talks deflated. He talks sad. He talks with a sense of despair and a sense of hopelessness. What is the hope that Sean King saw in the Palestinians that made him become Muslim at the same time that we were talking with the hopelessness? What makes all of these people that you're seeing entering Islam in droves? I was in some of the masajid in America.
In America, I have to say the audiences are much warmer, I will say that. But earlier she made a wonderful bar and someone started clapping. They went, no, we're English, we don't clap. In America, they clap over everything. You clap and oh! The reason why I say this is that what is it that they see in the Palestinians that we fail to see in ourselves? And I've thought quite a bit on the 1 hour trip on the M40 to come up here. Many thanks, shout out to my wife who let me out because my visa expired. In any case, Jazakallah khair, Sumaya. What is it that I can address a bunch of academics with regards to how can you amplify your Muslim voice? And I started thinking about it, and now the question is, why is it that you're trying to find a way to merge your Muslim voice with academia? Is the academia not inspired by Islam in the first place? Is it not inspired by your Muslimness in the first place? Is it not the fact that you're Muslim that drives you to pursue the study that you are pursuing? Is it not the fact that the Palestinians are Muslim which inspires them to continue resisting and continue in progress? Oh, thank you very much. Is it not the Muslimness of the Palestinians that makes them get up and makes them keep striving and make them keep mobilizing? And I want to emphasize this particular point because I've been accused of a very horrific accusation. Somebody referred to me as a motivational speaker the other day. Motivational speaker basically means you have no substance but you make me feel good. I'm not a motivational speaker by any stretch of the imagination. When we talk about Palestine today, there is a sense that the Palestinians are losing, right? When you're looking at it, there's a sense, when is this genocide going to end? You know, Mata Nasrullah. Many people are saying what the Sahaba said. مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولُ رَسُولُهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. The Prophet, they said it. Some of you might be saying like Nuh alayhi salam. رَبِّي إِنِّي دَعَوْتُ قَوْمِي لَيْلًا وَنَهَارًا وَلَمْ يَزِدْهُمْ دُعَائِي إِلَّا فِرَارًا. Allahumma, I've called on my people day and night. I'm tweeting, I'm sharing on Facebook posts, I'm going to the protests, I'm boycotting, I'm doing all these things. But the more I do it, the more people seem to run away from me. وَأَنِّي كُلَّمَا دَعَوْتُمْ لِتَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ. When I call on people, I tell them this is a genocide. I tell them there's something seriously wrong with this. You need to stop this genocide. جَعَلُوا أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ وَاسْتَغْشَوْا ثِيَابَهُمْ وَأَصَرُّوا وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا اسْتِكْبَارًا. They put their fingers in their ears, they cover their faces, and they treat me with Piers Morgan-esque arrogance. That's not what Nuh alayhi salam said. But it's a modern day tafsir. I need to be careful. Some of you, genuinely, you might be saying like Nuh alayhi salam, I'm doing all this effort, but nothing is moving, nothing is happening. Some of you might be feeling like Shu'aib alayhi salam. Shu'aib went to his people and he said to them, stop this genocide. He said, stop cheating people in business. Stop doing what you guys are doing. And they said to him, Ya Shu'aib, ma naraka alayna bi'aziz. We don't see you as one of the nobility. You're not Elon Musk, a billionaire. You're just some random students who gathered at Oxford Uni to listen to a guy who came from Wembley. Like, who are you? Like, who are you to talk to us about the grand things? Who are you to talk to us about genocide? Who are you, a bunch of academics? Who are you, a bunch of people writing poems, doing PhDs? I don't need to listen to you. Bring me somebody more senior than you, then I'll take you seriously. You might be feeling like that, like Shu'aib alayhi salam. You might be feeling like Saleh alayhi salam. You bring the clear proof. He split the rock and the camel came out of it, and he did it right in front of them. You brought the images. You showed the video of the beheaded baby in Rafah. You showed the videos of the Nakba. Amnesty, wama adrak Amnesty, finally had the courage to call it genocide. Human Rights Watch finally had the courage to call it apartheid. It took them 70-something years, but they got there eventually because there was the equivalent of the Muslim Researchers Network. They finally managed to get into these organizations. They finally managed to show them the haqq. They finally managed to push back against the Zionists. They finally managed to actually deliver the message and deliver da'wah because they saw their roles as greater than just simply getting a PhD and being upset that someone doesn't call them doctoral. You might be feeling like Yusuf alayhi salam. When does it stop like these chapters? He gets thrown in a well, then he's sold into slavery, then he's thrown into prison, and then he's forgotten about for however many years because the person who was supposed to remind Al-Aziz forgot about him. Then he comes out, and then finally at the end you're like, dude, that was a long journey to get to where he was. You might be feeling prophetic in these emotions that you're feeling. The difference between these prophets and between us is not the sensations you have in your heart. That's normal. It's what you choose to do because of those sensations. do you turn around and look at your brother, you tell him, why are you going to another protest for? You've been protesting for ages, nobody listens. Yeah, it's just a Coke. What's the Coke gonna do? The other day I went to a Turkish cafe and somebody ordered Coke and he said, I don't think my Coke is gonna make a big difference, you know, in terms of what he's doing. I said, you enjoy the blood of the Palestinians, Habib. Drink it, drink the blood, drink it. Oh, the gas, oh, that's pumping the rockets of the Israelis. He said, get out of here. The reason why I start with all this is, it's the caveat to what I want to say to you today. I don't give a damn if you've heard it before. Because the genocide is still going on. It's still being sponsored by Starmer's government, who went to the Cyprus base. The views expressed, by the way, are the speaker's own. They don't reflect anybody associated with this development organization. They're not associated with Muslim Researchers Network. They didn't ask me what I would say. I didn't tell them what I would say. They gave me some guidelines, respectable guidelines, but I didn't tell them that I might push those a little bit. So it's nothing to do with them. I'd like to inform whoever's here from MI6. I'd like to tell them there's nothing wrong here whatsoever. I'd like to tell Homeland Security, everything I'm doing is within the law. It's within, I'm democratically exercising my freedom of speech in order to save the West from a diseased heart that has allowed it to repeat a crime that only the Westerners seem capable of, which is a replication of the Holocaust that was committed by Germany, a crime of which the Muslim world has never seen, a crime of which the Muslim world has never done, a crime in which the Muslim world had no part in, a crime that is very uniquely European. We are trying to tell these Europeans through freedom of speech, fear Allah, not fear Allah necessarily because they don't believe in Allah, but we're trying to tell them, well, you guys are doing it again. You said never again, you're doing it again, and you're doing it again because you don't happen to like the color of these particular Palestinians. When it comes to how can you incorporate Islam in terms of what you're doing in terms of your studies, and I resent this question because it implies that you never incorporated Islam in the first place, which I know you guys all did. But the reason why I want to start with this is, what can we do with regards to what's happening in Palestine, with regards to what's happening in Sudan, and all of these other different issues? And I want to tell you just a number of anecdotes, because the poet Buna Muhammad, one of my favorite Canadian Muslim poet, he has a lovely poem where he says, we are all, I'm not a scholar, or he says it in Canadian, it's a bit different from English. I'm not a scholar or a preacher, I'm just a regular dude who makes mistakes too, but I can't talk about me without talking about you. When I was in America, in the States, in wonderful sunny California, where the weather in November is absolutely astonishing. I was there on the 30th of November, and when I landed, the pilot said the temperature is something degrees Fahrenheit, and the Americans thought everything has to be bigger in America. You know, the numbers have to be big, the burgers have to be big, the meal portions have to be big. You know, that's something that took time to get used to. But then when I converted it on Google, it said it was 26 degrees Celsius. Clear sky, sunshine. I've never seen the likes of that in the UK ever. When I came back, I was a bit like, ah. In any case, when I went to California, I met a particular individual who has a website called wordsofjustice.org. I don't know if you guys have ever checked it out. You can privately go to your phones now and check it out in any case. I won't mind, don't worry about it. When I asked him what is wordsofjustice.org, he said, Sami, I found that a lot of Muslims were talking about Palestine in a way where the Zionists would be able to entrap them with regards to certain phrases and languages that they would use. They would accuse them of anti-Semitism, they would accuse them of all these other things, and they would get in trouble for it. And it frustrated me because it was discouraging Muslims from speaking out. I said, okay, so what's this thing that you've done? He said, Sami, I studied AI, and I'm an AI expert. So I set up an AI database, and I taught this AI database the whole history of the Palestinian cause. And I set it up so that when you go on the website, you have three options. You have support, refute, and author. Support helps you to curate a comment that will amplify that pro-Palestinian tweet so that people will actually see it. Because for those of you who are involved in tech, you'll know that the algorithm works on the basis of what's popular, not what's right. Right now, Elon Musk, for some reason, believes that Tommy Robinson is a martyr here in the UK. And it's so bad, because he's been ramping up with the algorithm, that even Nigel Farage is begging him to stop. Nigel Farage telling him, please, this guy isn't who you think he is. The algorithm responds to something that is very popular. So the support lets you support Maryam Barghouthi's tweet, for example. Or lets you support Palestine, or Mu'taz Azaiza, or Muhammad al-Kurd, all these others. Those who would otherwise be quash in the mix, this app lets you say, I don't know what I could say to support Muhammad al-Kurd, but AI, give it to me. And AI helps you to make what you're saying much more eloquent. The second option is the option that I love, the refute option. So, there's an aggregator that brings all of the pro-Zionist tweets, all of the lies, all of the propaganda. This land belonged to us. These guys just hate the Jews. There's no such thing as Andalusia, where they lived side by side. No such thing as Sarajevo, the Jerusalem of Europe. No such thing as Christians and Jews living side by side with the Muslims. It doesn't exist. You know, one day there was a wonderful, I know here at Oxford, and perhaps this isn't the best way, best source of evidence, so they won't accept it in a PhD, but I believe it's very human. In the book of TikTok, there was a wonderful video. As soon as the genocide was unfolding, there was a wonderful video that epitomized what exactly was happening with regards to the public narrative. What this TikTok video was trying to highlight was, it wasn't that people hated Palestinians, they just didn't know about the Palestinian cause. That Palestinians had been so dehumanized by being ousted from the mainstream narrative that people were believing everything that Zionists were saying and were unable to hear anything that the Palestinians were saying. Now, as a result of social media, as a result of TikTok, may Allah protect, preserve, and elevate it, and bless its Singaporean CEO, Guru Ameen. Say Ameen. Otherwise, you would be restricted and limited to the BBC, wa'iyadu billah. You would be restricted and limited to CNN. You would be restricted and limited to GB News. Say Ameen, may Allah bless and preserve TikTok. Ameen. There is, for those of you who are cringing, I want to tell you something, I'm going to tell you bluntly, fear Allah. I'll tell you why. True story. I was in Philadelphia. And in Philadelphia, I was in a masjid, and I said this exactly. Now when I say it, I don't actually say it jokingly, I actually mean it. So when I said it, may Allah bless and preserve TikTok, there was a gentleman sitting, imagine if I'm sitting here, he's sitting over there. And he went, we're making dua for TikTok in the masjid. And I said, brother, what's wrong with that? And he said, TikTok is fitna. I said, shh. He said, don't shush me in my own masjid. I said, no, shush, I'm saving you. Saving me from what? So if you tell people that TikTok is fitna, you do know how TikTok works, right? It's an algorithm. The algorithm shows you only what it thinks you like. So it quickly tries to learn what you like. And the way it learns what you like is based on what you search and what you watch at length. So the only way it can show you fitna is if you search for it or you're watching it at length. So stop saying it publicly. You're humiliating yourself. Just give me your phone, I'll fix your algorithm for you. True, and tech guys here, you tell me it's true. It's the truth. And anyway, so TikTok, may Allah protect and preserve it. There was a wonderful TikTok that epitomized what happens when you have freedom of speech, real freedom of speech. What happens when you have true dialogue? What happens when you put the Zionist argument with a Palestinian argument in a free and fair discussion, when you present both arguments, when one is not raining bombs on the Palestinians, when one is not stifling the Palestinians, when you give them a platform to speak, which is all they wanted, when you give them a platform to lay their claim that we just want a right of return, we lived hundreds of years alongside other religions, we didn't have any problems with them, and these aren't my words, these are the words of an Israeli historian called Avi Shleim, who was asked by Muhammad Jalal on the Thinking Muslim, can it be said that Jews suffered anti-Semitism when they lived alongside the Muslims? And this Israeli historian, his words not mine, you can find it. He said it cannot be said that they suffered systematic anti-Semitism at any period in which they lived side by side with the Muslims, and the first real clashes between them took place after a bunch of Europeans went to Jerusalem and told the Jews over there, let's kick out the Muslims from their homes and let's take their homes for ourselves. This African American girl on TikTok, she did a video to highlight how everything was changing, and I'm going to act it out for you. So she's imagining a conversation between her and the Zionists. So the Zionists, oh oh my God, did you see these Palestinians, what they're doing? Oh my God, it's so bad, it's so horrific. Why did they do it? I don't know, they're just barbarians, they're just animals. Wait a minute, you're telling me they just just the way they are, they're just animals. Oh my God, that's scary. You mean like people can just get up and do these things? Yeah, it's just the way they are. Oh my God, I gotta read about it. No, don't read about it. Don't read about it. No, I gotta read. No, don't read about it. No, don't read about it. And the scene, she opens the book and she goes, looks at her in disgust. Because they realize that once they hear the truth, people are now starting to believe it. And when truth reaches the ears of people of conscience, you start seeing changes in areas that you didn't think you could find. Now there is somebody called Candace Owens. Karima, inshallah. Sorry, that was a blunder. Sorry, yeah. So Candace Owens, she has a statement that reflects this. What happens when academics start raising their voices and start talking? What happens when people start using their platforms? What happens when people start opening up their research to voices that were stifled by Zionism before? What happens when you have freedom of speech as it was intended to be? What happens when you have a free dialogue? What happens when you have a dialogue where no one is holding a gun to the other person's head? What happens in a free debate? What happens is Candace Owens goes on the Piers Morgan show and she says verbatim that Piers Morgan, you know that in my career I was always associated as part of Team Zionism. But as a result of what I've seen on social media from the Palestinians and those who support them, I can't unsee that, and that's why now I'm firmly against Zionism. Did anyone threaten Candace Owens? Did anyone put a gun to her head and threaten her? What convinced her to change her mind on Zionism? It was the freedom of dialogue, the freedom of information that enabled people to make an educated conclusion, and this is what Zionism feared. It feared genuine debate, which is why it is massacring the Palestinians, men, women and children, to make sure they cannot speak to the world again. It's why they prevented the Sky News reporter from going into Gaza, because they don't want reporters there, because if reporters go there, they will convey to the world, and if they convey to the world, what is happening in the world? The world is starting to wake up to what's happening in Palestine, and now Spain wants to recognize Palestine, Ireland wants to recognize Palestine, Norway wants to recognize Palestine, Macron is calling for an arms embargo. All these things are changing. Why? Because suddenly there is this freedom of information that is flowing. And the reason why there is this freedom of information is because of the decentralization of the way that information is delivered. The second point is the idea of where does this power manifest? Was the delivery of this information, was it done by nation states? Did you see, now I realize that when you apply for Hajj, there is a new question now in the application. Have you ever been associated with a media organization or a political organization? It's on the Hajj application when you apply. It is what it is, like Bin Salman. In any case, was it Bin Salman, for example, who funded the proliferation of this information? Was it, I don't know, there is I always say there's not just one Zionist state, there's another one as well. People go after it. It's like Habibi come to, what's it? Habibi come to. I didn't say it, you said it. I just like to go on record and say I have nothing to do with these people. Was it any nation state that funded, bankrolled a lot of this? It wasn't. What were the accounts that were being shadow banned? It wasn't the accounts with large followers. It was ordinary accounts. It was ordinary voices. It was ordinary people who were amplifying that account. Now I know that up until this stage, this all feels like an exaggeration. Sami came like a motivational speaker. And I get it, we're still quite dejected in our thinking. I'll open the eye gently, just try to open it a little bit gently, at least just for the hour, then go back to the old dejected, where Islam is only in the four walls of the masjid, and before we go, we have to think, how can we incorporate Islam outside the masjid? Apologies to the organizer, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sure you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I didn't come to undermine. Candace Owens, considered a bit, she's not really the kind of person that we want. So there is a famous intellectual in America called Ta-Nehisi Coates. Now, Ta-Nehisi Coates is on record as having supported the Israelis before. Israelis invited him to Israel. He went there, he liked what he saw, and then he came back. But then ordinary Palestinians, not the Palestinian Authority, not the Palestinian Authority, ordinary Palestinians, they got together and they said, if only the world could see the truth, their hearts would flip and they would be closer to us. The problem is not that the world hates Palestinians, the problem is they can't hear us. So if they could only hear us, if they could only hear our voices in the same decibel level that they hear the Zionists, then surely they will be able to see the fallacy of Zionism and see the legitimacy of the Palestinians. Ta-Nehisi Coates went to Palestine for how long? Does anyone know? Was it a month? 10 days. He went 10 days. Barely enough to try the Nablus Baklao, or Bakwala as my son calls it. He went for 10 days, and when he came back to America, what happened? He went on every single network channel. He wrote a book. After 10 days in Palestine, he saw enough in 10 days to write a bestseller. He saw enough content in 10 days. Enough content in 10 days to go and tell the entire population of America, I'm a black man, I know what apartheid looks like. He doesn't talk like that, but in any case, I'm a black man, I know what apartheid looks like, that's apartheid. I'm a black man, I know what racism looks like, that's racism. I'm a black man, I know Jim Crow, that's Jim Crow. Ta-Nehisi Coates went there for 10 days and look what he saw. And then one that really surprised me, Sheikh Tucker Carlson. Now this was the last guy I expected to start flipping. Tucker Carlson came out, he did an interview with a priest from Palestine. And this priest said, listen, we're Christians in Palestine being killed by the Israelis. And he went, wow. You know that meme? Wow. Astaghfirullah, should behave. And he says, really? He says, yes. And then Tucker Carlson goes off on a monologue. You know, I never understood why we give all that money to the Israelis. I never understood why we give them so much support. You know, Tucker Carlson said, you know, the only reason that Israel is able to do what it does is because we give them the means to do it. I think if you really want peace, we should stop giving them money, stop giving them weapons, and they'll have no choice but to make peace. Allahu Akbar. Oh no, but for the recording, Allahu Akbar in this context means God is great, which means God can flip the hearts. It's not Allahu Akbar like in the Nigel Farage-esque interpretation. Whatever. Harris lost the whole election because of Gaza. Now I realized when I came back from America, I flew back here on the 5th of November. And then I went again afterwards. But I flew back on the 5th of November. And I remember when I landed, there were two camps of people who categorically refused the assertion that Gaza was the reason why Harris lost. The first of them obviously were the Zionists. Does anyone know what the second category was? Muslims did not want to believe that they had an impact. And I want to just break down this thing just for you for a second. Donald Trump in 2020, he got 74 million votes. In 2024, he got about 75, 77, depending on which poll that you read. But he didn't really increase that much on his vote. We can agree on that, right? In 2020, Biden got 81 million votes. In 2024, Harris got 71 million votes. 10 million votes vanished. So which is accurate? That Trump won or the Democrats lost? Democrats lost, right. Where did those 10 million votes go? They didn't go to Trump. Now, many Muslims didn't want to believe it because I appreciate the inferiority complex, etc. I look like you, so it is hadith da'if, it's mutawatir, it's not sahih, it's not Muslim Bukhari, it's not even Abu Dawood or Tirmidhi. New York Times maybe is Bukhari, and ayah maybe, Sunan Majah or something. In any case, Michael Moore wrote an article. Michael Moore, does everyone know who he is, right? The film director. Who doesn't? If you don't know who he is, he's a very famous film director who was telling the Muslims that they have to vote Democrat because they have no choice where to go. Michael Moore wrote an article that what the elections demonstrate after what happened in Gaza is, if the Democrats want to win an election again, they need to create distance between themselves and the Zionists. John Fetterman, the Democrat Zionist, said that we lost because of Gaza, and I hope Trump does to the Muslims the worst thing imaginable. Bernie Sanders. Oh, Bernie, how he broke my heart. I used to feel the burn. And then I came across an interview in 2019 that he gave to Al Jazeera to Dina Takruri, in which he said, I am 100% for the rights of the Palestinians, and she got excited. And he said, I believe what Israel is doing is horrific, and she got excited. And what Israel is doing is unacceptable, and she got excited. And then she said, so Bernie, you believe that one state we can all live together? He said, no. She said, why? He said, because that would mean the end of Israel. The tafsir of what he was saying is, I don't want to give back the homes of the Palestinians. I sympathize with them, but I don't want to give the homes back. I sympathize, but I don't want to give the land back. I sympathize, but I don't want Muhammad al-Kurd to go back to Sheikh Jarrah. I sympathize, but I don't want Ghassan Abu Sittu to go home. I sympathize, but I don't want Imam Umar Sulaiman to go back to Tulkarem. I sympathize, but I don't want Palestinians to go home. I want them to look the thieves in the eyes from the windows and tell them, yeah, I'm not going to try take my land back anymore. I'm not going to try take my home anymore. You don't need to give the home back. You don't need to. Bernie Sanders wrote in the letter following the election defeat of Harris that we lost because of the economy and we lost because of Gaza. Now I know that many of you are still not convinced yet, so I've got more. I came prepared. Rohan, the Democrats' representative for California, came out and said that if we had changed our position on Gaza, we might have won the election. 34 polls in the US indicated that if Harris had changed her position on Gaza and broke from Biden, she would have received a 5% increase in her voting share, which is more than the difference in popular vote between her and Donald Trump, indicating what? That she would have won. Now I know that's still not enough. I came prepared. Wisconsin, she lost by 30,000 votes. There are more than 70,000 Muslims in Wisconsin. Add to that the non-Muslim allies of the Palestinians. She was reasonable for her. She might have won Wisconsin. In Georgia and in Pennsylvania, she lost by about 120,000 votes. There are more than 150,000 Muslims in those areas. Add to that the hundreds of thousands pro-Palestinian non-Muslims. It's reasonable to expect Harris could have won those swing states, even in a difficult economy. In Michigan, they gave the presidency to Trump, but gave the Congress to the Democrats, to Rashida. What was the messaging in that? We're punishing the presidency and we're giving it to the Democrats. So Gaza may not have been the key factor in delivering them to a stalemate of tete-a-tete, of head-to-head, but Gaza swung it. But then I saw Don Lemon, one of the big presenters in the US. He goes and he interviews this African-American lady with braids, and she's walking, clearly liberal lefty. And Don Lemon asks her, who did you vote for? She said, I voted third party. He said, but isn't that technically a vote for Trump? Well, I can't vote Harris. Listen to this. Why can't you vote Harris? Because I can't choose between a fascist in Trump and a genocider in Harris. They're supporting genocide. Where did she get genocide from? Did she get it from CNN? Did she get it from BBC? Did she get it from MSNBC? Mehdi Hassan was kicked out before he could even say the word. Did she get it from, what are the other channels? They've got so many. Bloomberg. Did she get it from Fox News? Where did she get it from? She got it from TikTok. May Allah protect and preserve and elevated and blessed Singaporean CEO. Singaporean, not Chinese, Singaporean. The reason why I say this is, have you noticed how the goalposts have started moving in the discussion? How people that we didn't think could be pro-Palestinian are becoming pro-Palestinian. How terminology is now becoming normalized. Apartheid, genocide, ethnic cleansing. It's now normalized in the language. Who normalized that language? Who normalized it? It was you and everybody who spoke out for the sake of the Palestinian cause. It was those who protested it in London, in Rome, in Berlin. And don't take my words. I know I'm hadith da'if. I know it. I know because I look like you. But, look like some of you. But, my wife is English, so when I say that, she goes, you do know we're not all look like you, okay? I said, okay. Now, I don't watch him. I want to be clear about this before I give this example. I don't watch him. Wallahi al-azim, I do not watch his podcast. I do not. But I was on a plane and someone sent me a link to Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson has an interview with the Israeli Prime Minister, former Israeli Prime Minister, so-called Israel, Naftali Bennett. And he said, Sami, you gotta watch this. I said, don't do this to me, I don't wanna watch it. He goes, no, just watch it. He said, do it as reconnaissance. I said, okay, reconnaissance, fine. So I opened it, and there's Jordan Peterson. What do you think about these protests that are taking place, these ignorant protests, the ignorance, in London, in Berlin, in Rome, all over, etc. What has been the impact of these protests? His words, not mine. Naftali Bennett responds and says, these protests have been devastating on our influence in those capitals. It has been devastating. The students, when they did the encampments, I know some Muslims here. I remember I was invited to a Zoom call with a number of ISOCs, and I didn't know why I was being called in. They said, Sami, we're having a meeting with the heads of ISOCs across the country. I said, why? They said to convince them to join the encampments. I was like, the Jahal, what do you mean? They haven't joined them. They said, no, they're saying it's haram. Hey! They said, we can't join the encampments. I said, why? They said, free mixing and LGBT, and I said, no one's asking them to free mix or do LGBT. They just go set up a tent, get some kebab and some doner, and they sit in the tent, just show the presence. No, we need to. And I remember one person on the call went, Sami, I don't want your political analysis, I want a faqih to give me a fiqh opinion. I said, who are you talking to, cousin? Are you dumb? Stuff, not like that. The encampments, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you choose not to be a vehicle, Allah doesn't wait for you. Allah will choose somebody else. Yunus alayhi salam said, Ya Allah, these people are useless, there's no hope for them. Allahumma, I'm going. Bye. He left and he was swallowed by a whale, right? That's the story. When did he leave the whale? When he makes a dua. What's the dua that he makes? Allahumma la ilaha illa anta subhanak inni kuntu minal zalimin. What does zalimin mean? Allahumma, there is no glory except yours. Truly I was from the wrongdoers. Zalimin comes from dhulm, those who oppress, those who do wrong. A prophet is saying, Allahumma, I was from the oppressors for abandoning a mission because I could not achieve the outcomes at the pace that I want. There was a wonderful picture about these encampments, and I promise I'll tie all these together. There was a wonderful picture of the encampments at Columbia University, because I realized the sisters, they didn't have this problem, it's only us brothers. The sisters have rujuliya that I think is lacking in some of us brothers. But in any case, there's a wonderful picture in Columbia University of these sisters, they lined up to pray. Of course, no brother leading them because they weren't there, but the sisters are there. And the sisters, they go Allahu Akbar. And they're doing ruku'. And there is a white American student wearing a short miniskirt and wearing a top. And she's grabbed the kufiya and she's wrapped it like a hijab and she's trying to copy them ruku'. In Ohio State University, the police came in to beat up the Muslim brothers and sisters. Brothers ended up turning up eventually, alhamdulillah, in America. I don't know about the UK so much. They ended up turning up. Police came to beat them up while they were praying. American non-Muslims went, let them pray. They loved it. Let them pray. Let them pray. And it went everywhere. Everybody saw it and said, hang on a second. Why are we attacking students? And when the momentum, it got so much that Netanyahu, Arabs will know why I stopped at Netanyahu. Netanyahu. I shouldn't have said that on the recording thing. Netanyahu does a press conference where he comes out and he pleads with Biden to send in the police to beat the daylights out of these broke students who will struggle to buy a house, who will struggle to find a career and probably want to stay in university until they do PhD because they don't go in the real world. Well, actually, that's the wrong audience. But anyway. So the police, they go in and they batter these students. Netanyahu was terrified of ordinary students that many of us look down on. Netanyahu was terrified of ordinary students. He did a whole press conference. Then Anthony Blinken, the butcher, he was at a conference with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney asks him, Secretary of State, why is Congress looking into a bill to ban TikTok? May Allah protect TikTok from this law. Gulu Amin. Alhamdulillah, Donald Trump has said that he's going to revise that law. He said, I can't do it. It helped me in the elections. I'm not sure that I can ban it. May Allah give tawfiq to Trump in this particular aspect, just to remove this law. Gulu Amin. You guys are all hesitant about stuff that benefits the ummah. You're too scared of dua. It's a good example of you guys should be like, Ameen. But this is a good example. Muslim, we said you have a lot of work to do with these people. In any case, Mitt Romney asks Blinken, why do we need to ban TikTok? We're a country of freedom of speech. We're a country that is about dialogue. So why are we going after TikTok? Now, a proper answer for propaganda purposes, because I worked in communications for a while, but I didn't do propaganda. The propaganda answer, can anyone give me an answer that would be good in propaganda terms? What would be a reason that you could convince people that you need to ban TikTok? Give me one. Data's not stored in the US. Build on that. What else? China. Now, if you do that, it's not that you would convince the people, but you would create enough of a debate whereby you could pass it through, right? It's like Nigel Farage and immigration. When people ended up moving the goalposts, Nigel Farage was so successful in moving the goalposts from the actual facts in which immigration brings a net benefit to the UK to getting Labour to say, yes, we've got an immigration problem. They could have done that. Instead, Blinken was so hurt by ordinary people that he was wonderfully honest. He says to Mitt Romney, and you can search it on Sheikh YouTube. Sheikh YouTube, you can find it. I know they're not really good university sources, but they are sources that had impact on the ground. Blinken replies, never in a million years did we think that Israel would lose control of the narrative over the population. And therefore we believe that TikTok has been a key reason in why Israel has been losing the narrative, and therefore we saw a need to go and ban it. Not only do they want to ban it, they want to force the sale. The law doesn't say ban it. The law says we want to force the sale, and the consortium that wants to buy it are all Zionists. You remember Elon Musk, when he first gave the podcast in a few weeks after October 7th? Because I'm aware that it's still a bit sensitive. You remember when Elon Musk gave that podcast in which he said, if I was Netanyahu, I wouldn't do what he's doing. Netanyahu is not, he said it, you remember? And then what did Netanyahu do? He told Elon Musk, I need you to come to Tel Aviv. Elon Musk went to Tel Aviv and he was never the same after he came back. Just recently, he's been doing a crusade for Tommy Robinson. Probably because he upset white Americans last week when he supported. Did you guys see Vivek Ramaswamy's tweet? Where he basically spoke to white Americans, how many white Americans speak to the black population. And they got really upset. He told them, you don't work hard enough. He told them, you guys are all interested in vacation breaks on the weekends, you don't work hard in math, you don't work hard in whatever. And they told him, how dare you, an Indian? It's like Ann Coulter. Did you guys know Ann Coulter, right? Okay, we're just pretending like 90. Anyway, Ann Coulter did an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy. She's a hardcore right-wing American. She said, Ramaswamy, I love your ideas and I love you in the elections, but I just can't bring myself to vote for you because you're Indian. Elon Musk ended up going to Tel Aviv but why did Netanyahu bring him to Tel Aviv? Why did Blinken ban TikTok? Why did Netanyahu ask for the students to be crushed? Because they identified where power lies. And that's why I have the theory today that Netanyahu believes in the power of Allah more than most Muslims do. Blinken believes in the power of Allah more than most Muslims do. Netanyahu knows the full power of da'wah. He knows how terrifying da'wah can be. He knows it. So he wants to crush it while Muslims debate whether da'wah is worth it. Blinken knows that da'wah is so powerful that a Muslim doesn't need an F-16 to convince an American the way Israelis need F-16s to convince Americans. The Muslim put him in front of a non-Muslim and let them speak about Palestine, they will convince the non-Muslim because Allah has put a sense of justice in every human being. It resonates. You've been to the protest. How many Jewish people have you seen at the protest? There's so many of them. How many non-Muslims have you seen at the protest? There's so many of them. They're not doing it out of hypocrisy. There's something in their hearts that has been taken and shaken by what they've seen with regards to the da'wah of Palestine. Netanyahu knows the power of da'wah, which is why he wants to crush it while we consider whether da'wah is worth it or not. But the reason I make all of these particular points, and actually I want to finish on this particular one, because this one really, I enjoyed the roller coaster ride of this one. Somebody mentioned the boycott earlier, about in the poetry, about buying the Coke. And I remember in the beginning when we boycotted, the reality is we Muslims, we were looking at each other going like, the Muslim pound isn't really that strong. We're going to boycott from the, Bab al-Iman, from the door of Iman. We're going to boycott, not because we believe we can make an impact, but just because we have no power, let's just do something that we can say to Allah, Allahumma, we boycott it. So everybody started boycotting, right? We started trying all these like strange alternatives to Coca-Cola. Even though the strange thing is, it should have been an opportunity to become healthy. Not that I want to talk, but in any case, it should have been an opportunity to become healthy. Instead we went, no. Where are the alternative unhealthy stuff? Salam Cola, Gaza Cola, Palestine Cola, etc. Let me kill you, but with halal. No disrespect to any of them, Allah, they, mashallah, support their businesses, inshallah, and give it to other people. But in any case, so people started boycotting. Even the filet fish. You know, my son used to love the filet fish. One day we went past McDonald's and he went, Baba. I said, yes, Sulaiman. He's 5 years old. He said to me, I'm not going to ask you for filet fish. Okay, Sulaiman. Because the McDonald's are killing the Palestinians. They're giving food to the people killing the Palestinians, Baba, and I don't want you to give them their money. I said, mashallah. But I didn't believe that we'd make an impact. I thought, okay, they're not going to sell filet fish, but what impact is going to have McDonald's? I was in Dallas, Texas, with one of the mashayikh over there in a car, the day that the news broke out that the Starbucks CEO had come out and said that our share price is dropping because of a coordinated boycott worldwide, and this is why we are having, unexpected fall in profits in this quarter. So I said to him in the car, I remember I'm in the passenger seat in this very awkward Tesla, and I said to him, Sheikh, did you see this? He said, see what? I said, Starbucks CEO said that the share price is dropping. Sami, don't do it. Don't do what? Don't say it's because of Gaza. Don't. I said, well, why do you think it is then? He said, Sam, in economics, there is supplyism and demandism. And you have the X's and the Y's and the P's and the U's and the F's. And sometimes when the X's and the Y's, they go together. I said, shit, why don't you want to believe? Why don't you want to believe that it's boycott? He said, because it's not. We have to be realistic about our power. You've heard this. We have to be realistic about what we can do in academia. Realistic in the topics we can do for a PhD. Realistic in how we can talk in academia. Realistic about the language we use in academia. Realistic about the subjects we can pursue in academia. Realistic about the impact we can have in academia. Realistic about what we can research in academia. Realistic about what we can get the funding from in academia. We have to be realistic. We can't be... So I said to him, okay. The next day, the Starbucks CEO, when I read the news that share price dropped, the next day the Starbucks CEO came out and said why it was dropping. So the Starbucks CEO says in the book of companies, the chapter of CEOs, عن CEO of Starbucks, قال that our share price is dropping because of a coordinated boycott. And the Sheikh effectively said, آمنا, I believe. I believe. When Allah said it, it was When Sheikh Starbucks said it, آمنا. And I thought, okay, Starbucks is going to encourage us, right? And then Makidi's announced that they were shutting down 150 stores in Malaysia, and also that there was a coordinated campaign, and he gave a statement where he was saying, guys, we didn't do very well this time, and we're going to have an investors meeting. I met another sheikh. Sami, don't do it. Don't do what? Don't say it's because of Gaza. Don't do that thing where you go on a podcast and you tell them that, we are having an impact. Don't do it, Sami. But if you, Sami, don't do it. I realized, hadith da'if. Because Islam is not social or political. Islam is only spiritual. Islam doesn't change societies. Islam today is dajjalic. Like I can't open the other eye. I can't do it. So I said, listen, forget it. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. The next day, book of companies, chapter of CEOs, and CEO of McDonald's, that there is a coordinated campaign that believes that we have an involvement in what's happening in Gaza, and therefore we have to shut down stores around the country, and we have to rein back our operations, and we plead with the world, please, we have nothing to do with this, can you stop boycotting us? What did the Sheikh say? Amanna! I believe. The reason why I focus on this aspect of belief is that yes, maybe these examples that I gave you, in a very tired fashion, I'm exhausted. Because to be honest, I'm not exhausted in a jokey way. I'm exhausted because I remember I was in San Diego, in California. Beautiful. Anyway, I finished the talk and there were 3 tables of non-Muslims, white. So when I looked at them, I thought, Homeland Security, my visa, I need... At the end of the talk, they came up And I went, Bismillah, Bismillah. It could be hillbillies, you never know. And the lady came to me, she went, speaking on behalf of the group, we just want to let you know, we're lifelong Democrat voters. But we're not voting Democrat this year. And she starts crying. And I tell her, why? Because this genocide is so horrible. And I can't, as an American who believes in freedom, I can't let the Democrats get away with it. So I wanted to be like the Muslims in our community. But what about Trump? What about? They said, we fought Trump for years, we'll fight Trump again. But we'll fight him on a moral ground. We won't forgive genocide. To avoid Trump, we'll punish genocide and then go and fight Trump. So as a joke, I said, can I invite you next week to give khutbah at the masjid so that you can convince my community to do the same? The reason why I say this is all of these examples, you might think they are pitiful examples. He came here to talk to us about subjects that we can do in PhD, about language we can use in our research, about boycotting Coca-Cola. One sheikh once said to me next month on a stage, he rebuked me, he said, he wants to liberate Al-Aqsa via WhatsApp. You might think, he's saying TikTok made a big difference. He's saying, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a power you are manifesting that seems ordinary, but it's extraordinary. And for those who don't like the Muslim references, and I find Muslims don't like Muslim references in politics. They only like it in, make me feel good, make me feel nice. I was watching The Hobbit with my wife and kids the other day. I know you, but to be honest, there's a particular scene in it that really moved me. So Galadriel is talking to Gandalf. After Gandalf has told him, I think that Sauron is going to come back. They're like, never. So Galadriel goes, you know something. And Gandalf goes, yes. So anyway, after Saruman leaves, Gandalf is about to leave. And Galadriel goes, Gandalf, why the Hobbit? Why did you bring somebody who can't fight? Why did you bring somebody who's not the greatest genius? Why did you bring somebody who's, when you look at him, he's the liability in Thorin Oakenshields' party? Why did you bring somebody who, when you look at what benefit does this individual bring to the cause? What do you bring? And Gandalf says, I don't know. I don't know. But Saruman believes, like many Muslims today, that you need great power to keep great power in check. But I have found that it is in the everyday actions of ordinary people, acts of kindness, justice and love, that keep the darkness at bay. Did Allah not say, فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى? Did Allah not say that those who do even an atom of good deed, Allah sees it? Does that not mean that Allah values the atom of good deed? Why do you not value what Allah values? Why is it when Allah looks at it and says, MashaAllah, you look at it and say, Ikha? Why is it that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, idfa' billati hiya ahsan, push back with that which is best, push, idfa', فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Because if you keep pushing, if you keep going with that which is right, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ, good and evil are not the same. You can spend millions on an evil PR campaign. It was broken by TikTok for free. It was broken by you for free. The Palestinians don't have the wealth that the Zionists had, but Mu'taz Aziz's pictures broke the $1 million PR campaign for free. The evil and good are not equal. Allah doesn't mean about the feeling. Allah means their impact, their effect are not equal. Good and evil are not the same, even if evil is well funded and good is not. But Allah says in the Quran, if you keep pushing, the one who was your enemy today, tomorrow can become your warmest ally. Is it not time to believe that the ordinary person can make such a difference, that the ordinary person can make it? And I finish on this point before you show me the 1 minute mark. When you read history, when you inherit memories of the past, you will find that those who made the greatest change were not superstars. They were the ordinary people. They were people who started out like Omar Mukhtar, a farmer and a Quran teacher in Libya. They were people like Nelson Mandela and the ANC. They were a bunch of ordinary lawyers and the like. They weren't people who you would look at them and say, wow, superstars. In Algeria, if I introduced you to my grandfather, Allah yarahmu, he fought in the mountains against the French. You'd look him and be like, doesn't look like it. I love him, but he doesn't look like anything special. He was one of those who went to go and fight. They were ordinary people. But I want to leave you with this. Allah gave you a wonderful religion and gave you a wonderful deen. and gave you a purpose and promised you that every action you do that has purpose, Allah will reward it and He will amplify it. Hud alayhi salam told his people that if you do what's right, Allah will give you power from where you don't even expect it. Has Allah not sent power with regards to the Palestinians? And for those who think the Palestinians are losing, has Netanyahu annexed Gaza? He hasn't annexed Gaza, right? Why has he not annexed Gaza? Is it because he's generous? Is it because he's kind? Is it because he doesn't intend to? Because he cannot. Why can he not do so? Because the Palestinians are still there. They refuse to leave. They refuse to move. Why is it that you want to accept the crumbs that the Palestinians refuse to accept for themselves? In Lebanon, has Netanyahu taken any land in Lebanon? Has he taken any village? He has not. In the West Bank, has he taken anything in the West Bank? Do you think he hasn't taken it because he's generous and doesn't intend to? He doesn't, because there are ordinary Palestinians who refuse to leave, who refuse to leave and abandon their homes. They continue to be there. Why do you cry defeat when they're still there? Why do you cry despair when they're still there? Why do you cry weakness when they have strength? Why do you believe that this is something that we should all be despondent when they are still there and breathing? Because the powers of evil cannot defeat the power of good, no matter how powerful you think that evil is. And I leave you with this final quote. For those of you who think he came to a bunch of ordinary students who don't know what they want to do, whether they want to do PhD, want to do a career, talking to us as if we can change the world. I believe you can. And I'll tell you why. I believe you can. Because when Abu Sufyan met Heraclius, the Roman emperor, who was the superpower of the time, Heraclius asked him a question. Heraclius said to him that this Muhammad, this prophet who's emerged from you, who are the people who make up his ranks? Who are the people giving him the support? Is it Qatar? Is it Saudi? Is it India? Is it China? Is it BRICS? Is it NATO? Is it EU? Is it America? Where we ascribe the attributes of Allah to America. America is omnipotent. It changed the regime in Syria because it can just do that. America is all-seeing like Sauron. America is all-seeing like whatever. America is also human too. But Heraclius says, who are the people who make up the ranks? And Abu Sufyan, and this is what I mean when I say some Muslims, beware that your interpretation of Islam might resemble a kafir more than a Muslim. I'll explain what I mean. Abu Sufyan says what we've heard many in the community say. The people who support him are these guys. Aradhiluna, he says. There are people in society who have no power. The low, Aradhiluna is a derogatory term that means the low of society. It's not Elon Musk. It's not J.D. Vance. It's not Biden. Obama doesn't do a cameo in Mecca to tell them, hear ye, Islam is the religion. It's not these ones. He says it's the lowest people. Abu Sufyan thinks, I've got him. Gotcha. This proves that his cause is destined for failure because he can't convince the elites to join. Heraclius goes quiet and looks at Abu Sufyan and says to him, "Oh, Abu Sufyan, if what you say is true, that he is able to inspire the former slave Bilal Barabah, the shepherds of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, the ordinary people like Ammar ibn Yasir, if he's able to inspire those to give everything for it, to compromise their careers and their jobs and their life for the sake of a noble cause, if a man is able to do that amongst the masses, then ya Abu Sufyan, this is the way of the prophets. And this means, ya Abu Sufyan, it is only a matter of time before he takes Mecca from you and Rome from me. He didn't mean that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would enter Rome, because he didn't. He meant Islam would reach Rome. It would reach California. I've seen masajid in California, big ones. I've seen masajid in Sydney. Sydney's far. 12 hours and a half to Hong Kong and then 9 hours from there to Sydney. I've seen masajid there. I've seen Albanese's government worried about the Muslim vote that can punish him in the elections and make him lose his majority. I've seen Trudeau now plead with the Muslim community there and the non-Muslims who are pro-Palestine who want to punish him, even if it means the right wing that comes in because they don't want to forgive genocide. I've seen the power that they manifest. But the point of what Heraclius is saying is, do not underestimate what you term as ordinary power. For the Lord of these ordinary people is Allah. Allah is extraordinary, and therefore His followers are anything but ordinary. They are extraordinary too. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.